The first season of Drag Race Philippines has finished yesterday, and so, of course, I'm here to make a cast ranking video. Ranking the queens on the show based on how they did in the competition. Not based on how they are as people. Not based on my own preferences of drag. Not based on anything but how the show told us they did in the competition. That's a little hard for some people to understand, but oh well. What isn't hard to understand is that this spin-off is, all things considered, an interesting watch. Does it have its flaws? Yes. The episode runtime is unnecessarily long, the judges are often extremely rude, and they most of the time talk about themselves and their own traumas instead of, critiquing the queens and helping them do better in the competition. Sometimes to the point where we aren't shown queens getting critiqued on how they did, but we do get 5 minutes of the judges just talking about something. The audio mixing sometimes is also a problem. If you stay here until the notes section of the video, you'll hear what I mean. However, on the other hand, the queens are charming as all hell, there is very little unnecessary drama, and the majority of the cast is very mature and professional. Something that's sadly a rarity on most other Drag Race franchises. The challenges are very good. I need that pageant challenge on other spin-offs as well. To top it all off, the Filipino culture and just how much they showed it on the show was so fantastic to see. As somebody who's a complete outsider when it comes to the Filipino culture, I was so into what the show presented to me. I think you can guess what my favorite runway theme was. It was episode 3's runway. It was just wow. I love horror and folklore and drag, and yes, I know about the Dragula, but I prefer my horror, folklore, and drag not to be
I'm not like the other girls
themed, and I'm going all silhouette on y'all with this whole intro speech, so this is the point system we're using. Let's get into the ranking. If you enjoy what I do here, you can support me by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and of course, commenting your thoughts on the season. You can further support me by joining my Patreon like all these lovely people. And this week, I have to give a special shout out to my new supporter on Patreon, Chapter by Chapter. Thank you so much for joining and helping me out. In the last place, of course, we have the first eliminated queen of the season in Prince. Watching the queen's entrances, my immediate favorites were Vinyas, Minty, and Prince. Now, to be fair, it was because of their aesthetics, or because they were just silly and fun. If I had to say who my favorites were based on episode 1's Maxi Challenge, I would not have been able to say anything, cause that was not a good challenge. However, back to Prince, I was a little bummed out that she was the first one to go home because, again, I really like her aesthetic. I like my drag to look otherworldly. I want it to mess with gender expression. I want classically masculine, classically feminine, and just classically nothing all in one. And that's what Prince gave me. For her, I of course won't show the track record chart since, well, she was eliminated in episode 1. In the 11th place, we have Jára with 5 points and a 1.6 recurring PP score. I mentioned the episode 3 runway as a highlight of the season for me in the intro, simply so I could talk about Jára's look. She was in drag from neck up. She had the nerve to go onto the runway with only putting effort into her face. I mean, listen, she looked terrifying and her runway presentation was creepy as fuck. All props to her for selling the shit out of a nothing look, but as you can see with her track record charts, she did have a downward trajectory with her track record from the beginning. In the 10th place, we have Lady Morgana with 9 points and a 1.8 PP score. Lady Morgana is such a cool drag name. I don't know what it is about it, but it just sounds powerful. Now, is it supposed to be like Lady Gaga and Lena Morgana? Do you remember the whole conspiracy theory behind it too? Early 2010s Twitter was wild. Anyways, Lady Morgana. I was kinda rooting for her to have a silhouette-esque run in the season, where she has a slow start but a great middle. However, sadly, she did not do that. The only time she placed above the save placement was in the 3rd episode, when she was part of the winning team. But to be honest, even there, I don't remember her as much. She did have a fantastic runway look in that episode, though. In the 9th place, we have Corazon, with 4 points and a 2 PP score. Okay, so Corazon was one of the first queens that entered the workroom, and because of that and her early season elimination, she got a lot of screen time. So I'm watching her and just so much screen time that she's getting, and I'm like, they're not even trying to hide the fact that she's going to go home early on. Usually the second, third, fourth boot of the season is not that memorable, simply because in those first 4 episodes the show has to establish the winner and make them memorable. However, Corazon did get a fair amount of screen time, as I've mentioned, so that's kind of the only advantage of having 72-hour-long episodes. Nobody is really forgotten. Her track record graphs, on the other hand, are not that interesting. She competed in 2 episodes. In the 8th place, we have Turing, with 8 points and a 2 PP score. Turing is above Corazon here because of Corazon's mini challenge win in her last episode. Turing's time on the show was very interesting for me, and she was somebody who I rooted for. However, the show did her dirty. Firstly, Jiggly's comments of her projecting her own insecurities onto Turing are, while at times valid, in the sense that yes, Drag Race does love to undermine the talents of bigger queens simply because of their size, and they do love to boil them down to, oh, this is a token bigger girl, but it's not a one-to-one comparison between Jiggly's time on the show and Turing's time on the show. Turing in episode 1 was maybe one of the few queens that had a good performance in the Maxi Challenge, but it was quite clear that her runways would be her downfall. However, again, we're kind of proven wrong because her episode 3's runway was amazing, and Turing had one of the best looks. In her last episode, she almost fainted on the runway, which just begs the question, why doesn't the show let these queens sit while they're on the main stage? We always hear about the queens being in pain for most of the competition, so why does the show still keep doing that to them? Looking at Turing's charts, of course, her peak was in the episode when she won the Maxi Challenge. The rest of the time, she was just kind of there. In the 7th place, we have Brekken, who earned 18 points during her time in the season. Oh, Brekken. She's very likable, and you really wanted to root for her. I know that I did, and I wanted her to do better than that horrid safe placement that she was constantly in, as you can see on the chart now, but it just was not happening. Brekken, Vinyas, and Precious Paula Nicole were kind of a given group in a way of queens by design from the beginning of the season, because they worked together outside of the show, and sadly, in these situations, only one queen will be able to prevail. The other 2 will always be sacrificed for the sake of that one queen. Now, I don't really agree with the double shantay when Brekken was kept in the competition. While her performance in the bottom 2 lip sync was good, her performance in the competition overall was meh. Sometimes I do think overall performance should be taken into account, because sadly, in the episodes that she was later in, Brekken did not bring much of anything else to the competition. However, I always found it funny when she was in drag, how she would purse her lips, so she would always look like a child menace being talked down to. It was always funny. In the 6th place, we have Minty Fresh. She was giving me strong Pearl vibes. Attractive out of drag, interesting style in drag, a low-key personality that the judges yell at her for, and while not having a stellar track record, she had some memorable moments. I'm still not over Minty's look in the ball. Oh my god, that look was fantastic. You may not think that Minty is visually exciting in drag if you're only seeing her promo pic here, so I need to show you some of the other runway looks that I really enjoyed. Her runway looks in episodes 1, 4, 5, oh my god, that was gorgeous. Again, her episode 7 look, though trust me, this look does not look as well as it actually is in this pic. You need to see it in motion. Looking at Minty's track record charts, she was pretty inconsistent in her performance, but earning 6 points in the 7th episode with a mini and a maxi challenge win is pretty impressive. However, in her last episode, she was so far behind in the competition, it would have been a shame if anyone had gone home but her. In the 5th place, we have Vinyas Deluxe. I started the season liking Vinyas because she was giving me opulence, my shit don't stink kind of a vibe, and then she was also quite silly, and I can appreciate all of that in a queen. However, her laughing because Turing almost fainted, yeah, it wasn't the move. It really wasn't cute. Also, Vinyas in that snatch game, oh my god, she was so annoying. She had a pretty good start in the competition, but she could not really keep it up. In my mind, like from the beginning, she was kind of like the fashion queen, but really she's like a dumbass funny queen, but like in a good way, you know? Her drag, while again being very opulent, is quite silly at times. So this was her entrance look. And then she comes out onto the runway looking like this, but then next week she'll come out in this. And then next week it's this gorgeous look. And then in episode 5 she's not gonna take herself seriously again and come out in a robe and curlers and a face mask. I love it. Also, let me just say this. I don't think this look is bad, and I don't think that she should have been in the bottom 2 that episode. Sorry about it. So in the 4th place we have Silhouette. Oh my god, Stenalina Davenport. I love Silhouette. First 3 episodes, I was like, okay, filler queen, who cares, why is she here, etc, etc. And then what does she do? She has a streak of 5 above safe placements in the season. 2 out of those 5 times getting wins. There is one other queen with a streak of 5 above safe placements, but we'll talk about her later because she's in the 1st place. I just loved Silhouette's breakthrough in episode 4. Her snatch game in episode 6 was so stupid, I loved it. And on Fashion Photo Review, Ongina and Rockham often pointed out that Silhouette loves wearing flat hair. And I don't know, I mean that is true, but I think she can pull it off well. She has a face for it. Her runway presentations also were either a hit or miss for me, but they were never completely, utterly bad. But yeah, during those 5 episodes when she virtually, but not exactly, dominated the competition, she had good looks. Also, I love all of her speeches that she did on the season. You could give her a paper tissue and she would be able to talk about how important it is for her and what it means to her. You can see she is smart, experienced, and again, I have to say it, I adore her. She has one of the greatest comeback stories on Drag Race, if not the greatest. That might be a video idea. In the 3rd place, we have Eva La Queen. If we look at Eva's track record charts, you can tell that out of the top 4, she's a clear one that could not win. She doesn't have any wins in the season, only 4 high placements, and the rest of the season she was safe with 1 bottom 2 placement. Maybe it's because her lack of wins that I never paid much attention to her, but in my mind, Eva is just like the one that looks like she had a lot of plastic surgery done. Sadly, not even her runways made me excited. Maybe only her episode 4 runway look, which is beautiful, but there were better ones. However, I think her greatest strength is performing, actually. Her performance in episode 3 Maxi Challenge and then in the bottom 2 against Vinyas really showed that she's a beast on the stage. I may not have got much of an impression from her, but obviously that does not mean I dislike her, so let's not get it twisted. In the 2nd place, we have Precious Paula Nicole. Okay, so here's the thing. You know how I mentioned Precious, Vinyas, and Brigading as having a connection before the show? Yeah, well, it seems like that connection was kept there and constantly tapped into to give Precious a winning storyline. You know, like her teammates were all eliminated, she's going to win for them, she's the strongest competitor of the 3, and so on. You'll see later in the notes section why I think she got some favoritism, especially in the makeover challenge. Not because of anything regarding unfair placements, but the fact that she often just would not get critiqued. It could be just poor editing on the show's part, but yeah. Even though she won her first Maxi Challenge in episode 4, she was always there in the edit. So I kind of had this feeling of, oh, they're preparing us for a Precious Paula Nicole win. And I do not like that as a storytelling device. However, us being told that she's the winner kind of does make her a winner, of course. The show did a similar storyline with Kiramin and her win on Drag Race Down Under, but obviously I'm not saying all of this to take away from Precious Paula Nicole's win, but rather to explain it. I think she had a pretty great showing of the season. Hell, she had only 1 low placement, no bottom 2 placements, but there was somebody who did better. That queen is, of course, Marina Summers. Marina's track record is giving me strong Nina Flowers vibes. Actually, the only times that Marina wasn't high or won in the season was in episode 2 when she was safe, and then in episode 8 when she was low. Neither of the 2 times did she actually have a bad showing. She dominated the competition, she showed just how versatile she was, being able to perform well, be funny, do improv, have great runways, and to add on to that last best part, have a theme with almost all of her runways. They always seem kind of beachy, which goes well with her name. She's great at branding. And I'm just wowed by her professionalism and her talent. Also, in the finale, she gave one of the best performances of any lip sync ever when she went up against Silhouette for Call Me Mother. The biggest winner of the season, aka the queen that plays the most spots above her original placement, is Venus Deluxe. On the other hand, the queen that plays the most spots below her original placement is Lady Morgana. Alright, the notes. The placements this season were pretty understandable. The show went for the balanced high, safe, low placements most of the season, and I only had trouble with episodes 8 and 9 because of, again, Precious Paula Nicole getting almost no critiques.
How about Precious Paula Nicole and Precious Chona Nicole?
Oh my god, that is what you call, brotherly love. Yeah.
I'm so puffy from that experience. And more than anything else, really, that for me is I'm so proud to be a gay Filipino man, because that is how a gay Filipino man takes care of their siblings.
Yes.
In episode 8, during the judges' deliberations, as you just saw, she literally got no critiques. And she did not get many either during the actual critiques earlier in the episode. However, even the little that she did get more positive critiques than Eva, which is why for episode 8, I put Eva as safe and Precious Paula Nicole as high. For episode 9, as you can see here, from the judges' deliberations, Precious Paula Nicole got very little positive, but she also got no negative, while Eva got a lot of positives, and then one mixed comment, which is why I put Eva as high and Precious Paula Nicole as safe. I know some people will say that they were both high. I don't do that here, and I'm trying to keep it consistent for all of my interpretations of the non-canon placements. If you're getting upset over this in the comments, seriously, go outside.
Oh my god, the irony of you telling me to go outside when you're making videos about Drag Race.
Babes, I get paid to make these. I earn a portion of my living and support my family with these videos. You do not get paid to post stupid comments, tweets, and TikToks about me. Now, I didn't do the who should win video for this season because this is its own franchise with a different host. We need to see at least like 3 or 4 more seasons to try to figure out how they chose their winners. But I want to know, who was on the top of the competition the most? Who dominated the season, basically? Well, only 3 queens were ever the best. Minty Fresh twice in episodes 1 and 2. Venus Deluxe 3 times in episodes 2, 3, and 4. And Marina Summers 9 times in episodes 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Of course, I also asked my supporters on Patreon what they thought on the season. Max sent his thoughts saying this. I enjoyed the season, but the episodes were far too long. The cast was honestly great, and I particularly liked the pageant challenge, which I would love to see adopted by the other Drag Race branches. I was convinced that Venus would win the whole season, but the break a leg curse happened again, and I had to say hasta las Venus to my favorite, in hope she will be on a Versus the World season soon. Besides her, I really liked Precious Paula Nicole, Minty, and Silhouette. I don't know if anyone shares this experience, but when the season started, I thought Silhouette's name was Lady Morgana, because her aesthetic resembles that of a dark sorceress like Morgan Le Fay or Morgana. I really want Silhouette or Precious Paula Nicole to win, but I think the rightful winner is Marina Summers. But I hope we can all agree that Mama Paula was the star of this first season. She cracks me up. And that's it. That's the video. The first season of Philippines was enjoyable in concept, but painful in execution. I'll put it that way. The queens are also charming and likable. I don't think that there is a single person in the cast whom I don't really vibe with, so that's another positive for the season. But what did you think of the season? You can tell me your thoughts on the season below, and thank you for watching.